The first time I came to the US in 2013, I couldn't hold a conversation with anyone in California. And I was so intimidated to talk to anyone that I met. Even though by then, I had been learning English for 20 years. And I got 130 out of 150 in a 高考 English test in 2006. Gosh, that's 17 years ago. The national average was around 90, so I did pretty well. So what went wrong with my first 20 years of learning English, and what really triggered the improvement and the acceleration of it? So I can sit here talking about it with you now and use the language to help hundreds of students from all over the world with their Mandarin learning live.
That's how much I changed from the class.
Well, I'm happy that this course is making your whole family happy.
Yes.
It's like I spent 20 years picking up Lego pieces here and there, but I never assembled anything. Not even minifigures. It was only when I started doing something different a couple years ago that all the Legos I collected were finally put together. For many language learners, you never even know what the picture on the box is supposed to be. But first, let's talk about this buzzword that's been floating around the language learning community, the passive and effortless method that everyone can use to acquire a language naturally and magically. Or maybe it's just a concept brought up by Dr. Stephen Krashen 50 years ago. He referred to second language input that is one step beyond the learner's current stage of linguistic competence. So the listening/reading materials that you use can be mostly understood. Some people say 90% should be understandable, and some suggest it should be even more. No matter what percent you settle on, it sounds like a good idea. But it's such a basic idea in language learning that it doesn't even really mean anything nowadays. It's called comprehensible input. Any first-year grad student knows I+1. Now, in a one-on-one class, it's very feasible for a professional teacher to make CI materials for you, as everyone has their own set of Lego pieces in hand. And that's what I always do for my students. But on the internet, videos claiming to be CI most likely aren't. And it's really hard for them to be CI without subtitles or translations. The point is that after me reading and listening to English and watching a bunch of English TV shows for 2 decades, I still found it hard to have a deep conversation with English natives. CI even believes that a silent period where all you do is listen is necessary. And it's all you need to acquire a language. Well, 20 years of this silent period should be long enough and abundant enough. So why were all the Lego pieces that are collected throughout the years still not fitting together? Doesn't help. 20 years of experience eating food doesn't mean you know how to cook. Input and output are completely different processes, and output is the final step for learners to use a language. YouTube linguists pushing CI above all else will tell you that babies just sit and listen for months or years before starting to speak. The truth is that babies started babbling, imitating, and developing their mouth muscles very early on when they hear baby talk. And they have years to slowly acquire the sounds without worrying about their life or work. But obviously, that's not how it works for adults. We have limited time and we are impatient, so we want to see the progress ASAP. This is where explicit knowledge, i.e. knowing how the pronunciation or grammar works, helps to facilitate the process. Consciously learning the rules of the game is how you understand any skills or accomplish in any field, right, my adult friends? When we do this, we finally know what the assembled Legos are supposed to look like. Explicit knowledge is not evil like it's described in Krashen's theories. They are angels and they are fascinating. I don't think any non-native Chinese or Japanese YouTubers would deny their explicit language learning experience as the foundation for everything they have achieved. If your native language is English or Spanish and you are learning a distant language like Mandarin, without knowing the basics of the completely different tonal sound system or the unique Chinese grammatical categories, it's like you're trying to assemble a 16-year plus Lego set, but all the pieces are lack. And you don't even have any instructions for where to start and to know what's next. Even Dr. Crasham could only have a brief conversation with a lady in Mandarin at an airport a long time ago because he had 20 hours of intensive classes. Yes, that's what he told my friend a couple of days ago during a Zoom call. And he literally says he doesn't know if CI works for learning Mandarin Chinese, and he doesn't speak any Mandarin at all now. So what exactly did I do to use my Lego pieces and push my English to a professionally functional level? I wrote a lot. I had to constant output since I wrote for a China-focused media for 3 years since 2017. I ended up being invited to forums and panels where I had to use English to get my ideas across. This is even more necessary when I started making YouTube videos. So I forced myself to search for the most precise words to guide my idea across, make sure to use the correct form, and put them in the same order an English native speaker would use. And I was lucky enough to have a great editor that would go over my writing, so I could see what the most native-sounding expressions were and how they were different from what I'd written. This kind of feedback has boosted my writing and speaking even further. My English is so much better now! And if you are learning Mandarin, this would be the equivalent of practicing speaking and having a professional teacher giving you immediately feedback to make sure you got it right. It's having your parents next to you guiding you when you put the Legos together incorrectly. Subscribe and I'll help you put the Legos together too. So this little push and correction will get you where years of just reading and listening couldn't. I've seen the huge differences that output makes in my teaching as well. Students got plenty of input living in a Chinese-speaking environment and in China, but when they first started studying with me, they could only use short sentences with simple words. But after constant writing, speaking, and feedback, they've gotten so much better. Yesterday, my student Vincent sent me a 600-character essay that he wrote up in 30 minutes. His writing is so much longer, better, and more advanced. More importantly, these improvements are reflected in their speech too. Any learned skills are built up piece by piece in a cycle of input and output. It's a process of imitating, making mistakes, correcting, consolidating, improving, then starting the next cycle forward. Some CI advocates will tell you that when you are listening and reading, you are not making mistakes and thus won't get discouraged. Things will eventually become clearer.
2,000 years later.
Well, this might be the case, but you don't know how long it'll take. Probably a very long time. And you can give up easily at any point because you don't see any progress. We're busy and don't have time for someday. Eventually, tens of millions of learners have been listening to the language, now making mistakes for years. And where are they? Can't hear you. Making mistakes is where you start improving. You just need instant feedback that's to the point, clear, and instructive enough that you adjust, consolidate, and keep going forward every day. This is exactly what I want to help more Mandarin learners to do in the Summer Speaking Mandarin Bootcamp starting next month. You will uncover the Lego box of Mandarin Chinese, and you'll have step-by-step instructions from me and the best Chinese teachers in the US. Guaranteed no misinformation or guesswork in your 8-week Chinese journey with us. And the most valuable daily feedback to guide you along the shortest path to putting together your Mandarin Chinese Legos. Spaces are limited, so hit the link down below to learn more. A quick recap. CI is ideal material, but it's far from sufficient or effective for adult Mandarin learners. Clear and correct explicit knowledge, instant feedback, and efficient output/drills is how adults learn Mandarin Chinese in the shortest time possible. Hit like if you got something useful, or let me know in the comments if you don't agree. Watch this video here for some really good and fun Chinese input. And remember, with Fàn Lǎoshī, Chinese makes perfect sense. See you all in the next video.